Fixez.com bringing you another repair video today. Looks like we're going to be working on an HTC One. In this video, we're going to show you the steps necessary to reassemble your HTC One after removing a damaged display assembly. Before we get started with our reassemble, let's review our suggested tools. Small Phillips screwdriver. Start our reassembly by doing everything in reverse, starting with our power button and sensors. We can peel off the protective cover for our adhesive on our replacement part and place our power button and sensors into place. Our earpiece speaker is next, fitting snug back in its housing. Let's go ahead and maneuver our lower motherboard back into the phone. Let's be set our connection plug down for our power button and sensors here at the top corner. Let's set a few securing screws to hold the board in place while we're continuing our rebuild. And when we're putting this one up here near our power button, let's make sure we put our bracket back into place as we're securing it down. We have our small ribbon cable on the side of our lower board with our locking socket. We can insert that cable into the socket and lock it down for connection. Let's put the securing Phillips screws here for our dock port so that we can continue our reassembly without it falling out of place. Let's bring the battery back down into the center of the phone, maneuvering it around our ribbon cables. While we're down in this area, we can go ahead and continue with our securing screws for our dock port, as well as our loudspeaker. Here's our first of several connections. Let's first secure the connection down onto the board, and then bring in the 2 Phillips screws over top of it for security. Our connection here that also needs 2 Phillips screws to secure it. Let's now go around our phone and plug in the 4 coaxial connections that are necessary. Here's our first of many locking socket connections. This is for our display assembly. Slide the ribbon cable in and lock the socket down securely. This is an interconnection ribbon wire with a wafer plug on one end connecting the lower motherboard to a ribbon wire to a locking socket to our upper motherboard. On the other side, here's our second display assembly ribbon cable going into the socket and locking it down. And here's our final connection. Again, ribbon into the socket, flip the tab down to lock it securely. When bringing in the rear cover, let's be mindful of 2 things. Starting first with the side rocker buttons for the volume. Be sure they're mounted into place securely so they don't fall out of place when we're trying to mate it to the display assembly. And also when we are putting the 2 together, that we begin at the top portion of our HTC One, as these are not clips at the top, but they are more hooks. We could begin to work ourselves down the side of the phone. Let's be mindful of that rocker button so that it doesn't fall out of place as we're snapping the phone back together. This display assembly comes back together extremely tight. When snapping this phone back together, it's very recommended to use firm and even pressure as you work yourself around the perimeter of the phone as to not crack the new display assembly. Once all of your clips are snapped back into place and secured, you now can inspect the seam of your HTC One. Look over your power button as well as your volume buttons and make sure everything is functioning properly. You'll notice on our HTC One, there's not a bit of damage. We can now install our SIM card tray. All of the parts and tools you've seen today in this video are available at www.fixez.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter.